Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever wondered why some massive, seemingly invincible companies completely collapse when the market shifts, while others don't just survive but actually thrive? Today, we're looking at the absolute critical mechanics of survival in business. We're tackling a massive topic: organizational design and strategic change management. Because, let's face it, every successful organization, whether it's a scrappy startup or a massive multinational corporation, has to continuously adapt to changing market conditions, new customer expectations, and disruptive technology. If they don't, they struggle to survive. So today, we're going to explore exactly why that happens and how the very best companies design themselves to win. Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at why adapting is a non-negotiable reality in a segment called Adapt or Fall Behind. Next, we'll cover overcoming human resistance. From there, we'll walk through 3 proven change models. And finally, we'll wrap up with the continuous transformation journey. Section 1. Adapt or Fall Behind. This is literally a matter of survival. Now, adaptability gets thrown around a lot as a corporate buzzword, but looking at these companies, we see it's about absolute survival. Think about legacy giants like Nokia and Kodak. I mean, these were once unquestioned industry leaders, right? But because they couldn't adapt quickly to changing technology, they lost their competitive advantage entirely. Now, contrast that with modern tech titans like Microsoft, Amazon, and Netflix. These companies didn't just stumble into success. They continuously redesign their organizations and proactively embrace change. The main difference between these two groups is their fundamental approach to transformation.
So, how did those winning companies actually pull it off? Well, it all starts with organizational design. Basically, this is the process of structuring an organization's people, roles, responsibilities, communication systems, and workflows to achieve strategic goals. I want you to imagine an organization as a giant machine. Even if all the individual parts, your employees, your software, your products, are absolutely excellent, the engine just won't perform well unless every single part is connected properly. Organizational design is the blueprint that ensures every department and every process works together toward a shared objective.
But here's the catch. Designing the machine is only half the battle. If organizational design builds the engine, change management is the structured approach to upgrading its parts without breaking the engine while it's still running. It's all about moving from a current state to a desired future state. This isn't just random chaos. It's what we call planned change, and this is typically led by change agents. Now, these could be internal managers, HR professionals, or even external consultants. Their entire job is to communicate the need for change, motivate the employees, and remove obstacles so the organization successfully reaches that future state. Section 2. Overcoming human resistance. You see, an organization can have the most perfect, mathematically sound strategic plan in the world, but human beings naturally prefer stability and familiarity. Which brings us to a very direct question for all of us. Why do we fight change? When a company introduces new technology or restructures departments, it definitely creates opportunity, but it also creates a massive amount of uncertainty. I want to validate right here that resistance isn't just people being stubborn. It is rooted in very real human fears and deeply ingrained organizational inertia. Let's break down both the overt and implicit reasons for this resistance. For starters, people have established routines they just don't want disturbed. There's also a very real fear of economic loss. Like, what if automation or restructuring eliminates my job entirely? There's the fear of the unknown, of course. Or maybe employees genuinely believe the current system works just fine. But notice those last 2 points: departmental politics and fear of losing authority. Organizations develop deep power structures over the years. Departments protect their own turf, and senior managers might fear losing their influence. This resistance can be overt, like open protests, but honestly, it's often implicit. It shows up as lowered motivation, increased absenteeism, or just sudden, unexplained mistakes. So what's really interesting is how leaders actually overcome all that friction. There are specific strategies they use. Education and communication are always your first line of defense. Explaining the why is just crucial. Participation is great because it creates ownership in the decision-making process. Facilitation and support provide the actual training and counseling people need so they don't feel abandoned. Negotiation offers incentives to those affected. But look at that last one: coercion. Sometimes in extreme survival situations, immediate action is necessary. But the risk here is huge. Relying on coercion severely damages employee morale. This whole dynamic is also where the politics of change come into play. It's often exactly why companies bring in external consultants. They're viewed as neutral experts and face way less of that internal political resistance than a current manager might. Section 3. 3 proven change models.
Let's look at some heavy-hitting theoretical frameworks that provide step-by-step solutions for managing transition effectively. The first is an absolute classic, Kurt Lewin's three-step change model. Think of this as a journey. Step 1 is unfreezing. You have to create awareness that the current way of working is simply no longer effective, so people actually start questioning their existing practices. Step 2 is the actual change, or movement, where new systems and behaviors are introduced. But Step 3 is where most companies fail, and that's refreezing. Once people accept the new way, you absolutely must stabilize it by reinforcing the new behaviors through policies, rewards, and culture. Because without refreezing, employees will just naturally snap right back into their old, comfortable habits.
Now, if Lewin gives us the broad strokes, John Kotter's 8-step model gives us the comprehensive tactical playbook. You start by creating urgency without sparking panic, of course, and building a powerful guiding coalition of influential leaders. You need a clear vision, and you must communicate it repeatedly. But I really want you to focus specifically on Step 6, celebrate short-term wins. This is absolutely crucial. A massive organizational transition can take years, and visible, short-term successes are what actually motivate a team to keep pushing through all that discomfort. And finally, just like Lewin's refreezing concept, Step 8 reminds us we must anchor these changes deeply into the organizational culture.
And that brilliantly brings us to our third framework, Process Ad Care model. While Kotter focuses on the organization as a whole, the Ad Care model shifts the focus all the way down to the individual employee's personal psychological journey through change. It stands for awareness of why the change is needed, desire to support it, knowledge required to perform effectively, ability to actually apply those skills in the real world, and finally, reinforcement. As a leader, you really have to realize that every single employee is moving through these 5 distinct steps at their very own pace.
Section 4, the continuous transformation journey. So we need to bring the concepts of organizational design and change management back together to resolve the core challenge we introduced at the very start. Whenever you redesign a structure or bring in new tech, you have to consider the human impact, balancing efficiency with employee well-being. The crucial takeaway here is that change is not a one-time event that you just check off a list. It's a continuous loop. After implementing change, leaders have to constantly monitor specific feedback metrics. We're talking employee engagement, customer satisfaction, productivity, innovation, and financial performance. Regular feedback from your teams and stakeholders is literally the only way to identify problems early and make necessary improvements. Adaptability is now the single most valuable skill in the business environment, and it requires constant, ongoing tuning of the machine. I want to wrap up this explainer by leaving you with a really powerful quote. Change is not the enemy. Poorly managed change is the real challenge. The organizations that successfully align their structure, their strategy, and their people are the ones that turn massive market shifts into major opportunities. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. Look at your own company today. Are you just operating the machine you've always had, or are you actively designing for tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I encourage you to keep questioning how your organization embraces the shift.